Hello everyone, and welcome to another Top 5 Records video. Today it is 40 years ago since Live Aid, one of the biggest concerts that ever took place with the biggest names in music. Now, I wasn't alive 40 years ago, but I was alive when 20 years ago this big release came out. The DVD box of Live Aid. And I was a big Queen fan back in the day, and this was an expensive box, and everybody was looking forward to it because this would contain, and this does contain, almost the entire Live Aid show, and it contains Queen's performance, and that performance has often been voted the best live show ever. Now, we're 4 years later, and I'd like to take a look into that. I got a couple of questions. Why is it considered the best live performance ever? I'm gonna take a closer look at the Queen performance, and honestly, as a Queen fan, I don't think this is per se their best performance. But to fully understand the impact of the show, I think it is important to look at the entirety of the gig. So before I'm gonna analyze the Queen performance, I'd really like to also talk you through some of these names and why other people did not take this moment in time to make the best performance ever. Because, well, millions of people were watching this around the world. It's one of the biggest live events that ever took place in a time in which it wasn't so common to see live shows on air. So any of the big names could have taken the stage and got that title of legendary performance, right? So I'm gonna take out this box, beautiful 4 DVD box, and I've been watching these discs over and over again to get an answer on these questions. Let me start out. There's a beautiful booklet here, and since you do not have the track list on the back side of the cover, I've been constantly looking through this booklet to get an idea of where to go while watching these 4 beautiful discs. Now, the time is the 80s, and pop music in the 80s is noticeably different from the 70s, and there are actually so many great artists that at that time were even in their prime. So why did not they make the biggest, best live show at the time? Going through some of the names here. Early on in the show, you got Coldstream Guards, Status Quo with Rockin' All Over the World, and Caroline. 2 good songs, but I can't say they had the energy to get the same impact as Queen. Though they definitely are a band that in those days had a good reputation live. Then you go to the Style Council, great band, I love their music. The Boomtown Rats, same thing, great band. Adamant, great moment in time. But they do not have the back catalog of hits that a band like Queen does. The thing is, and that's unique about Live Aid, the world was a stage. So although these artists were either performing in Wembley Stadium or JFK Stadium in Philadelphia, they were performing through satellite, and everyone everywhere could see them. So it's great that they have some of these legendary 80s artists, but it was at an early moment in their career. Ultravox, same thing. Love Ultravox, but they got Dancing with Tears in My Eyes in Vienna, great song. But also 2 songs, is that gonna do it? Elvis Costello, doing All You Need Is Love. I love that version of All You Need Is Love. Yet he did not conquer it. Sade, Sting doing Roxanne, then Phil Collins and Sting doing Every Breath You Take. And I do think that you notice at that moment in the show, Sting is on top of it. Sting is on a very good moment in his career, being a daring, interesting artist, yet he doesn't have what a band like Queen has, those full, strong 20 minutes. Later on, we're going to see another band, which I think is a very strong competitor after Queen for the status of a legendary show here. But it's all good, it's all amusing. I wish I was there, because all these names in the mid-80s, it is spectacular. Bryan Ferry, Slave to Love, Jealous Guy, great songs. Paul Young does get 3 songs on the stage, but he opens with Do They Know It's Christmas. That's a bad guess. I mean, Paul Young did have a lot of pop potential in the 80s. I think he had a great voice, but somehow he just never truly lived on. And to open up your show in July with the Christmas song, and I know that this show was organized after the video and the single of Do They Know It's Christmas, but it just doesn't seem right, because he's doing it alone. Well, the true power of Do They Know It's Christmas is that it's an ensemble piece, all these artists working together, which you'll get later on in the show. And also, this is a hot day. It's a hot day in July. You cannot get into the Christmas mood here. Paul Young and Alison Moyet, That's the Way Love Is. Then Bryan Adams with Kids Wanna Rock and Summer of '69. That's okay. It's okay. I like Bryan Adams. The end of this one, we get U2. And I think that with U2, you see the band that could have been the winner of the day for Live Aid in 1985. And they do not have what Queen had. A big bunch of greatest hits, 20 minutes of songs the world already knew. Actually, far from it, because they were, of course, big in the 80s, but they would be growing bigger and bigger and bigger. But they are only playing 2 songs in 20 minutes. And you would almost say that is stretching it, because one of the songs is Sunday Bloody Sunday and the other is Bad. Nevertheless, that moment, those 20 minutes, contain what made U2 legendary in the first place. Anger. They played Sunday Bloody Sunday with this powerful rebellion. There was anger, there was conviction. The entire band was doing great. Bono was of a grand proportion. He stood there, he had something to say, and that made that band so exciting. If you do not know the songs of a band, I imagine a lot of people may not have known a lot of U2 songs back in 1985. That energy, it just spoke out. And then you get the second song, Bad, which I think may be the best U2 song ever, but it's stretched so long. But during that performance, you saw there was tension in the audience, people were getting pressed towards the stage, and Bono just dove into the audience and rescued a girl there who was being pushed towards, it was dangerous, you know. And Bono showed that with the fury of Sunday Bloody Sunday and helping his fans at the front and helping people, and he was definitely at that point a man of the people. He was close to the people. He was close to the day and age. And those 20 minutes were brilliant. Yet, it did not go down as the performance of the day. And I'm going to continue with that later on. I'd like to talk about some other gigs there, because there we have the Beach Boys. And I think the Beach Boys didn't do a bad job. They played Wouldn't It Be Nice, Good Vibrations, and Surfing USA. And these are songs that are very difficult to perform live. And I think the Beach Boys had an incredible talent in doing all these lines right at the moment. But if you take a closer listen and a closer look to their performance, they seem to be slightly desperate to reach the audience. They really want the people to feel entertained, as if they were making up for the fact that a big part of the 70s and a big part of the 80s, they were aware that they were not on top of their games, on their game popularity-wise. I think that if they would have laid back and just did those brilliant songs, it would have been fine. Perhaps also zeitgeist can sometimes just be not helpful. And I think a lot of the artists on this show, although great big names, and we will always remember them as great big names, the 80s were a rough period, and you were either cool or you were not cool. You go to Dire Straits and Sting, Money for Nothing. Dire Straits, Sultans of Swing. I think Dire Straits did a great job performing. And at that moment in time, just after they had the incredible success with Brothers in Arms, brilliant album, they had a streak of so many great albums. Yet this didn't go down as the legendary performance. And I think they performed great. I think they were in a great shape. I think Mark Knopfler, being a perfectionist and an audiophile, just may work slightly better in an environment in which he has total control. Not to say that they're not good live. I have some great live recordings of Dire Straits here. But Live Aid was a gig in which you were invited to the situation, the video, the entirety of that stage. And he is a purist. And I think those studio recordings of Dire Straits work best. And being a pub rock band, the full quality of their sound coming out of speakers in a pub, speakers in a bar, speakers in your living room, being close to it. There is a certain intimacy in the entirety of their sound. Whether it be for a slower ballad like Brothers in Arms, which they did not play, but also for the stronger rockers like Money for Nothing or Sultans of Swing, they do rock. They are powerful. But a stadium may not be the perfect spot for them to show what they're truly capable of. Yeah, I'm gonna skip Queen for the moment. I'm gonna talk about Queen last. Thing is, after Queen in Wembley, you got a performance by David Bowie, and David Bowie at this moment in time was incredibly popular. He had done the Serious Moonlight tour. He made Let's Dance. He also made the Tonight album after that, which is a not so great album. Let's Dance is a great album. I think it's great pop. Popularity-wise, Bowie was at its peak. Yet, and this has always stunned me, it's not a bad performance. Not a bad performance. But I was perhaps as much a Bowie fan when I saw this for the first time as a Queen fan. But seeing Bowie right after Queen, and he did TVC-15, Rebel Rebel, Modern Love and Heroes. He just doesn't seem as convincing as he could be. Bowie is a great artist. He's a good live artist. He doesn't always enjoy performing live as much. Perhaps the songs were a bit too long for what they had to offer at that stage. The energy of it just didn't really fit. You really see the band and everyone... well, dancing is not the right word, because what you notice with the band is this, come on guys, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. They wanted to cheer everyone up and try to create an energy that's not in TVC-15. TVC-15 is soul, it's funky, it's slick. And Bowie, he was the popular guy, but everybody there tried to be the popular people. And I think people noticed that. I mean, you've got millions and millions of viewers. Definitely not a bad performance. But I never understood why the Heroes on Live Aid didn't struck me as much as seeing Heroes in the Isolar tour. of course, I wasn't there. I'm just seeing footage. Or the Heroes Bowie did at the Freddie Mercury tribute concert. Also, same stadium, Wembley Stadium. Bowie's music seems fit for a stadium. Although, I would have changed Rebel Rebel for Let's Dance. And there's something missing there. As if Bowie was threatened by Wembley, which I can almost not understand, because during the Serious Moonlight tour he was doing stadiums. He should have been more ready for this. John Baez, Amazing Grace, okay. The Pretenders, The Who, playing Love, Rain or Me and Won't Get Fooled Again. I think they did an okay job. I think Roger Daltrey did not look... I mean, he did not look at his place in the 80s. Pete Townsend did not look at the right place in the 80s, and I think people noticed that. I think people noticed that. Elton John, Benny and the Jets, Rocket Man, Don't Go Breaking My Heart, and Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me. Those were great moments. Great moments. Because Elton John was good at the time. Doing the Kiki D song with Kiki D, Don't Go Break My Heart, doing Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me with George Michael, who nailed it. I mean, George Michael was at a good moment in time. He was very exciting in those days. I love those moments. Disc 3. Madonna, Holiday, Get Into the Groove. Yeah, Madonna's great, but you're competing with very good live artists. And Madonna is charismatic. Madonna has great songs. But if you're sharing the stage with Bowie, Dire Straits, or U2, is she ever gonna become serious competition? I mean, we're talking about live, you know. But she's good. Brian May and Freddie Mercury did Is This the World We Created? Yeah, well, that's okay. Paul McCartney doing Let It Be. Paul McCartney is good, but it felt a bit like a routine. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. American Girl and Refugee. Love both those songs. I love both the versions. Two songs that really sparked why was it not the epic moment of the day. The 80s, again, were not Tom Petty's best place. Black Sabbath featuring Ozzy Osbourne. Spectacular moment, because Black Sabbath was actually performing with Ronnie James Dio in those days. And you had the return with Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy Osbourne did not look... Ozzy Osbourne looked more like Meatloaf than like Ozzy Osbourne. And it's a visual event. So there was a certain unease. These guys were not... these guys, they haven't been playing together for quite a while. So the moment is epic, because it's good to see Ozzy Osbourne with Black Sabbath again. Paranoid is a brilliant song. I think Paranoid is also maybe the best song for that moment, for that large of an audience. But it's one song, and they didn't sparkle like early 70s Sabbath or 1975 Sabbath. I'm going to do a video about the best unreleased live shows, and Black Sabbath has some stuff. It's amazing. REO Speedwagon, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Teach Your Children. Love that song. Judas Priest. The United States has a little bit more a rougher metal-like edge. It's less pop. The Cars doing great. Neil Young, The Needle and the Damage Done. Love that song. Phil Collins, In the Air Tonight. Phil Collins was good at that moment. Was very good. Yet, not claiming it. Eric Clapton could have claimed it with the moment with White Room, She's Waiting, and Layla. I mean, especially White Room and Layla. Epic songs. But Clapton in the 80s. And you could wonder if Clapton ever as a live artist would be of a real challenge towards, well, great live bands at their prime. Love Duran Duran, Save a Prayer. Patti LaBelle, I didn't go for that. There are a lot of extras here. There is a lot of stuff. Bob Dylan and Keith Richards. You're looking forward to that, of course. But Bob Dylan had the same thing. Tom Petty had in the 80s. It was not his decade, or The Who, not his decade. So you also see that the moment in time was good for a lot of artists, but it was also not everyone from the 70s who has a great reputation right now was in the 80s cool. Mick Jagger doing State of Shock, the Michael Jackson Freddie Mercury song, but with Tina Turner, I think they did a great performance. I think Mick Jagger had a good moment in time. But the entirety of the Philadelphia show did not sparkle the way the Wembley Stadium show did. I think at that moment, London just had the more exciting artists for that moment in time. I mean, Philadelphia did have Tom Petty. They did have Neil Young. They did have the reunion of Black Sabbath and the reunion of Led Zeppelin, but the Led Zeppelin show was not that spectacular. The Black Sabbath show was not that spectacular. For some artists, this show just did not come in at the right time. So why was Queen so spectacular? Well, the film Bohemian Rhapsody says that they haven't been playing together for quite some time, and then suddenly Live Aid was their big comeback, and that is nonsense. Complete nonsense. Queen at that moment were in the best shape for that stadium to do what they always did. And still, I do not think they did a better show than a year later during their Magic Tour. Queen, and I think this is what sets them apart from other artists. Are you a stadium rocker? Well, the Rolling Stones did have potential, but the Rolling Stones did not perform. The Beach Boys, also one of those big names, they're not stadium rockers. Dire Straits, great big name. Bob Rock, different energy. Queen, very early on in their career, got stadiums as a comeback place. This was not the first time Queen performed at Wembley Stadium. Freddie Mercury already knew that if he would enter that stage, how his voice would sound, how an audience may react to Deo, how the reverb there is, what volumes to make, what energy to give to reach the corners of that specific venue. There is a thing, and David Byrne writes about this in his book, How Music Works, that certain music just works better in a tiny place. There's this venue in New York where they started to perform, and their early songs and their first recordings, they were drier because they were accustomed to playing in a place where you'd also have country artists. A director sound, you could have a drier sound, and those songs would work best in that environment and in that moment. Just like certain hip hop with the boost and the bass works best in a car. Queen always were aware of how songs would sound and change. There's this story by Brian May that later on in the 70s, they heard their music in clubs. And they thought, oh God, it doesn't work. Disco is becoming popular. More people want to listen to music in clubs. And our grand operatic hard rock, symphonic rock, it doesn't work here. But Freddie Mercury, he went to bars and he went to a lot of clubs, late 70s, early 80s. And Mercury was diehard going into, I want Queen to sound better in clubs. So they made Hot Space. You even can hear on The Game that their sound is changing. Not just the way it's mastered or mixed, which also did change, but they are aware of that the place where their music is featured is changing. In the mid-80s, if you put on a Queen album like The Works, you hear that they are aware of the power of radio singles. of video clips. They are very aware of the way their sound works and where it's featured. Now, with all that knowledge, they early on learned how to play a stadium. First of all, as musicians. The grand sound of the red special guitar of Brian May taking over a stadium like Wembley Stadium. The collaboration between John Deacon and Roger Taylor. Very early on, when you listen to their Rainbow shows from 1974, you can hear that it's so much more complex and there's so much more going on, especially with the drums. Technically, it's very tough, going everywhere. But in a closer, drier place and with a different audience, that works. He started to do actually a little bit less, keeping the beat alive, keeping the vibe alive. But the bass and the drums work better with the time in between for a larger stadium because they give more space for the reverb. They all know how their songs work. And now melody-wise, because not only did they play some hit songs, and Queen had songs to reach for an entire audience, because they'd been playing the world for about 12 years and had a lot of hits. They played hits like Bohemian Rhapsody. They had a hit in the charts in the day, Radio Gaga, Crazy Little Thing Called Love, which was a great big hit in the United States. We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions. Big names. But something like Hammer to Fall, which they also played, that wasn't a big chart hit. But they knew that the stretched out sound of a song like that, or the stretched out sound of something like Radio Gaga would work. Also, interaction. They chose the songs that interacted with an audience that was ready to sing. Now, if you're in the audience and you hear Bohemian Rhapsody, you want to sing along. If you're in the audience and you hear Radio Gaga, you just want to clap along. They had two songs for which to clap along and to interact with. Radio Gaga has here is Radio Gaga, Radio Gaga. And people knew that because they've seen the video. We Will Rock You is the actually, you need to stomp and do the thing. So you have the interaction there. You have the shouting of we will rock you. Easy to join into, even if you're not aware of the song. First time you hear it, you can join. We Are the Champions. Easy to sing along. Everybody can sing along to Bohemian Rhapsody. A lot of people can sing along to Crazy Little Thing Called Love. So they had those songs, and to ensure the interaction, Mercury did a Deo. So in these 20 minutes of Queen, they did everything to have a strong interaction, and everybody who's sitting at home watching, you could not notice that they had that moment with the audience. So you feel that watching from home. It definitely works different when you see people joining in. The songs were perfect for that. The way they played them were perfect for that. The selection of songs were perfect. And the years before that, they knew how to play audiences. In the same year as Live Aid, they did Rock in Rio, which was the largest audience at a single venue at that moment in time. They were not breaking up in 1985. The Works tour was one of the largest tours they did with the largest audiences. They were ready for Live Aid like no other band. And also, despite already all the experience with playing for big audiences, like the entire South America tour they did a stadium tour in South America. So I believe the first band to actually do that. Constant experience in large audiences. They were the only band who knew what they were stepping into. They realized if you get 20 minutes to perform for a world audience, we're going to give you 20 of the best moments of Queen. So they cut some songs short. We Will Rock You is a snippet. We Are the Champions is a snippet. Bohemian Rhapsody is a snippet. And they actually went into a rehearsal studio to get those 20 minutes tight and up and running. The world is watching. They would have been the best prepared of all of them because of their experience, but they even knew we're going to take it one step further in playing. Now, and then they went on stage. There's another thing that happened. I believe it was the mixer who took place behind the mix desk, and he eliminated all the limiters Queen had, because there were strong limiters because it was a live broadcast. So Queen was actually, to all the people sitting at home, louder than all the other artists. That's just one of the many things Queen did to sparkle that day. Nevertheless, their performance, Brian May said this about the performance, as a band, it was pretty common. The way they played, their technique, it was the way a Queen gig would go. Freddie Mercury, however, he was joyous, sparkling with energy, and he really embraced those 20 minutes the way only Freddie Mercury could. His energy is audible. Nevertheless, I think sometimes, energy-wise, he may be overshouting. And I think that his voice, perhaps it's got to do with smoking or with the excessive touring. I don't think his voice was in the best shape in 84 and 85. And I don't think vocally that Live Aid show was his best performance. I think he was even better during early shows in the Magic Tour. I think he was better during the Hot Space Tour, let alone what we can hear in the 70s. But he was not bad. And he had all the energy in the world. And in the end, I think it's conviction that matters for an audience. Freddie Mercury at that moment in time was truly convinced that only he was the frontman to speak to the world. He knew the audience, he knew the songs, he knew how to play a stadium, and he had already rocked the world. And that conviction led him to make one of the most charismatic performances ever. Perhaps not the technically most perfect thing he ever did, but he was there like a legend. And that's my analysis why Queen was considered the best band of Live Aid. Though, if you'd like to hear the best Queen live show, try out Wembley 1986, or Budapest 1986, or the Milton Keynes show, Queen Live at the Bowl from 1982, or Live at the Rainbow 1974, which is a spectacular there are two spectacular performances, and I can't wait to hear official releases of Houston 1977, Earl's Court 1977, Hammersmith 1979, Hyde Park 1976. This band truly was amazing. But they sparkled because they knew that moment in time, the audience and the situation better. So I'm curious, what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave a comment below, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.